Blood looks different when it's spread across asphalt at 3 a.m. It doesn't pool like you'd expect. It stretches in spider webs, finding every crack and imperfection in the road. I've seen enough of it now to know. The first time was just outside Tuba City. The body had been dragged nearly 40 yards from the point of impact. That's what the state trooper told me as I sat on the bumper of my rig, hands still shaking too hard to hold the styrofoam cup of coffee someone had pressed into them. My headlights were still on, cutting through the desert night and illuminating the scene in harsh white light. The coffee spilled over my fingers, but I barely felt the burn. He just appeared, I kept saying, like he materialized out of the darkness. The trooper nodded, like he believed me, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. People don't just appear on empty highways. They walk, they hitchhike, they break down. They don't materialize. But this one had. A tall, emaciated figure standing perfectly still in the center of my lane. I had just enough time to register his presence before impact, just enough time to see that something was wrong about the proportions of his body, about the angle of his neck. Not enough time to stop 30 tons of truck and cargo. That was 6 months ago, and the official report read, pedestrian fatality, driver not at fault. But I haven't driven a route north of Flagstaff since. I took a pay cut to stick to the southern corridors, hauling between Phoenix and Tucson with occasional runs to Yuma or down to Nogales. Anything to avoid the Navajo Nation at night. Until last week, when dispatch called with an emergency job, a load of medical supplies needed in Page by morning. The regular driver had gone missing somewhere around Gray Mountain, his truck found abandoned at a pull-off with the engine still running. No blood, no signs of struggle. Just gone. Double pay, my boss had said, knowing my reluctance. Plus, a bonus if you make it by sunrise. I should have said no, but my ex-wife had just hit me with another increase in child support, and my landlord was making noise about raising the rent again. So I said yes and loaded up, and headed north out of Flagstaff as the sun was setting. That's when I got the text from an unknown number. If you're taking Route 89 north tonight, there are rules you need to follow. I almost ignored it. Spam, I figured, or some kind of prank. But something about the timing made me pull over at the Chevron at the edge of town to read the full message. The rules are simple, but they'll keep you alive. Don't stop for hitchhikers. Don't look too long at anything that seems out of place. If you see lights following you that aren't headlights, speed up. If you hear something scratching at your trailer, don't investigate. And most importantly, if you see someone standing in the road who looks like someone you know, don't stop. They're not who you think they are. I laughed it off as I pulled back onto the highway. Probably some local messing with out-of-town drivers, playing up the Skinwalker legends to scare the newcomers. But as darkness fell completely and the lights of Flagstaff disappeared in my mirrors, I found myself watching the shoulders of the road more carefully, scanning for figures in the darkness. The radio only picked up static beyond Cameron, and the silence in the cab pressed in on me like a physical weight. I was about 10 miles south of Gray Mountain when I saw the first figure standing on the shoulder of the road, arm outstretched, thumb up. And despite myself, despite knowing better, I slowed down just enough to see his face in my headlights. That's when my phone chimed with another text. You just broke the first rule. Now the others matter even more. Hello, viewers. If you wish your stories or experiences to be narrated by me, share them on our own subreddit, which you can join from the description below. I will pick the stories from the community and narrate them, and every once in a while, we will host a 3-hour story compilation. My hands tightened on the wheel as I accelerated past the hitchhiker. In my side mirror, I watched his figure grow smaller, still standing perfectly still with his thumb extended. He hadn't turned to watch me pass, hadn't moved at all. The text message glowed on my phone screen in the cup holder. "You just broke the first rule. Now the others matter even more." "This is bullshit," I muttered, but my voice sounded thin in the cab. I reached for the radio dial again, desperate for any sound to break the silence. Nothing but static. The GPS estimated another hour to page. Not so bad. I'd been making good time despite my stop in Flagstaff. Just needed to get through Gray Mountain, past Cameron, across the edge of the reservation, and I'd be fine. Gray Mountain wasn't even a real town, just an abandoned trading post, a former gas station, and a couple weathered buildings clustered around the junction where 89 meets the road to Grand Canyon. In daylight, it's nothing special. At night, with only my headlights cutting through the darkness, the empty structures looked like skulls with black window sockets staring out at the highway. I was approaching the abandoned gas station when my high beams caught something in the road, a dark shape splayed across the center line. I slowed instinctively, squinting to make it out. A coyote, maybe, or a deer hit by another vehicle. As I drew closer, I realized it was much too large for a coyote. The shape resolved into what looked like a man, face down on the asphalt. If you see someone standing in the road who looks like someone you know, don't stop. But this person wasn't standing. They were lying motionless. And the rule said nothing about stopping for actual emergencies. Someone could be hurt, dying. I put on my hazards and pulled onto the shoulder, leaving the engine running. The man hadn't moved. The clock on my dashboard read 11:47 p.m. "Hello?" I called through my open window. "You all right?" No response. I drummed my fingers on the wheel, torn between human decency and the growing dread in my gut. Fuck it, I thought, grabbing my flashlight from the glove compartment. I'd never forgive myself if I left someone to die on the road. I'd check it out, call 911 if needed, and be on my way. The night air hit me like a wall when I stepped down from the cab, cold in that particular desert way that seeps into your bones. My boots crunched on the gravel shoulder as I approached the figure. "Hey, you need help?" I called again, louder this time. The figure didn't stir. I approached cautiously, flashlight beam trained on what I now could see was definitely a man in dark clothes. His face was turned away from me, one arm outstretched toward the center line. I was about 10 feet away when my phone chimed in my pocket. With my free hand, I fished it out and glanced at the screen. "Don't approach anything in the road. Return to your vehicle immediately." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the night air. I looked back at the figure on the road, now just a few steps away, and realized I could see straight through him to the asphalt below. The figure flickered like a bad television signal, becoming momentarily solid, then transparent again. And as I stood frozen in shock, it began to move, not like a person getting up, but like film running in reverse. The form lifted off the ground in one fluid motion, limbs contorting impossibly as it rose to stand. I backpedaled so fast I nearly fell, my flashlight beam jerking wildly across the thing as it straightened. For a second, it had no face, just smooth, featureless skin where features should be. Then, as I watched, a mouth opened in that blank expanse, widening until it split the entire head in half. I ran, sprinted back to my truck with my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. Something skittered across the asphalt behind me, not footsteps, but a sound like too many legs scrambling over stone. I threw myself into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it in one frantic motion. Through the windshield, I could see the figure now standing in the center of my headlight beams. The face, if you could call it that, was still split in that terrible grin. But now I could see that what I had taken for dark clothing was actually just darkness itself, a human-shaped absence of light. My phone chimed again. Drive. Now don't look back. I didn't need to be told twice. I threw the truck into gear and floored it, swerving around the figure. In my mirror, I saw it turn to watch me go, that gaping maw closing until its face was blank again. 5 miles down the road, when my heart had finally stopped trying to escape my chest, my phone chimed one more time. You've survived your first test, but you still have many miles to go, Mr. Larson. You broke the first rule. Now there will be consequences. The next rules are even more important. 3. If your radio suddenly starts working, turn it off immediately. 4. Don't stop at Cameron, no matter what you see or hear. 5. If you see lights in the sky, don't watch them for more than 3 seconds. 6. If someone calls your name, don't answer. I frowned at the screen. The unknown texter now knew my name. And there were 2 rules missing. The second rule had been skipped entirely. As if reading my mind, a final message appeared. Rule 2 is now in effect. Something is in your trailer. Don't look back there until sunrise. A heavy thud sounded from behind me, metal groaning as something shifted its weight inside my cargo hold. Another thud from the trailer, louder this time. The truck actually shuddered with the impact. Whatever was back there wasn't small. Rule 2. Something is in your trailer. Don't look back there until sunrise. I glanced at the digital clock on my dashboard. 12:03 a.m. Sunrise wouldn't be until around 6:30. Over 6 hours with whatever was making those sounds. The highway stretched empty before me, a black ribbon in my headlights. On either side, the desert extended into darkness. No lights, no signs of life. Just me and the thing in my trailer. I reached for the radio dial again, desperate for any distraction. Rule 3 said to turn it off if it suddenly started working. But right now, it was still just static. I twisted the knob, scanning through frequencies of white noise. Nothing. Another impact from the trailer, this time followed by what sounded like claws scraping against metal. I pressed down harder on the accelerator, pushing the truck to 75, then 80. The engine growled in protest, but I needed to make better time. Needed to get through this hellish night. Cameron was coming up in about 15 miles. Rule 4. Don't stop at Cameron, no matter what you see or hear. The 2-lane highway curved gently as it followed the contours of the land. In the distance, I could see a faint glow on the horizon, the lights of Cameron, most likely the gas station at the junction with Highway 64. The scraping from the trailer had stopped, but now I heard something new, a soft, rhythmic tapping. It took me a moment to realize it was coming from the roof of the cab, directly above my head. Tap, 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 like fingernails on metal. I held my breath, straining to listen. The tapping stopped for a few seconds, then resumed. Faster now, more insistent. Tap, 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 tap. Fuck this, I muttered, turning the radio volume up to drown out the sound. The static filled the cab, oddly comforting in its meaninglessness. That's when the static changed, subtly at first, then more distinctly. Words emerged from the white noise, fragmented and distorted but unmistakably human. Assistance required. Accident at mile marker. Cameron, all available units. I froze, finger hovering over the volume knob. Rule 3. If your radio suddenly starts working, turn it off immediately. Multiple casualties. Officer down. Location, Cameron Trading Post. I switched it off, heart pounding. The cab fell silent again, except for the engine's hum and that persistent tapping above my head. The glow of Cameron grew brighter ahead. I could make out the illuminated signs of the gas station and trading post now. As I drew closer, I saw emergency lights, red and blue pulses cutting through the night. Police cruisers, an ambulance, and what looked like a fire truck were clustered around the entrance to the trading post. Officers moved around with flashlights, and I could see what appeared to be bodies on the ground, covered with blankets. Rule 4, don't stop at Cameron, no matter what you see or hear. I white-knuckled the steering wheel and kept my speed steady. As I approached the scene, a figure stepped into the road, a state trooper waving a flashlight to flag me down. My foot twitched toward the brake pedal instinctively, but I caught myself. Don't stop at Cameron. The trooper's face came into view as I drew closer. His mouth was moving, shouting something I couldn't hear. He stepped further into my lane, waving both arms now, clearly expecting me to stop. I swallowed hard and pressed on the accelerator. The trooper's eyes widened as he realized I wasn't slowing down. At the last moment, he dove out of the way. I roared past the emergency scene, heart hammering against my ribs. In my mirror, I saw the trooper rise to his feet, still staring after me. He lifted something to his mouth. A radio, probably, calling in my license plate. Then something odd happened. All the figures at the emergency scene, the officers, the paramedics, even what I had thought were bodies on the ground, turned in unison to watch my truck disappear down the highway. And as I watched, all the emergency lights winked out at once, plunging the scene into darkness. "Jesus Christ," I whispered, hands shaking on the wheel. My phone lit up. "You followed Rule 4. Good, they almost had you." "Who are you?" I yelled at the phone, as if the mysterious texter could hear me. "What the fuck is happening?" No response came. Instead, the tapping above my head resumed, more frantic now. Something was crawling across the roof of the cab, its movements jerky and erratic. The desert opened up as I left Cameron behind. To my right, the land dropped away into the little Colorado River gorge, invisible in the darkness, but I knew it was there. A great gash in the earth. Something caught my eye in the darkness to the northeast. Lights hovering in the sky. Not the steady lights of aircraft, but dancing, shimmering orbs that pulsed with an eerie blue-white radiance. Rule 5. If you see lights in the sky, don't watch them for more than 3 seconds. I counted in my head, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then forced my eyes back to the road. But the lights were mesmerizing, pulling at my attention like a physical force. Against my better judgment, I glanced up again. The lights had multiplied and were moving in complex patterns now, weaving and spinning like some cosmic dance. They were beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Look away. Look away now. With enormous effort, I wrenched my gaze back to the highway. My phone chimed immediately. "You look too long. They've seen you now." As if in response, the tapping on the roof stopped. A new sound replaced it. A soft sliding, like something dragging itself along the length of the trailer toward the cab. The lights in the sky grew brighter in my peripheral vision. I could feel their glow on my skin now, even without looking directly at them. The truck's electronics flickered, headlights dimming, dashboard lights blinking on and off. "Larson." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once, inside the cab, inside my head. My name, spoken in a voice that sounded almost familiar. Rule 6. If someone calls your name, don't answer. "Larson, pull over. We need to talk." It was my father's voice. My father who had died of lung cancer 3 years ago. The voice was exactly as I remembered it, with that slight gravel from decades of Marlboros. "Dad?" The word escaped before I could stop it. My phone screen lit up, text appearing without a notification. "You answered. Rule 6 broken. God help you now." The temperature in the cab plummeted. My breath fogged in the air as the voice spoke again. No longer just my father's, but a chorus of voices layered together. "Pull over, Larson. Look at us. We've been waiting for you." The truck's engine sputtered, and the check engine light flashed on. I fought the urge to look at the sky, keeping my eyes fixed on the highway ahead. A hand, pale and impossibly thin, with too many joints in the fingers, reached down from the roof and tapped on the windshield, right in my line of sight. Tap, tap, tap. "Next rule," I gasped, desperate for guidance. "What's the next rule?" My phone lit up one more time. Rule 7. Reach the gap before they reach you. Don't stop until you cross the Navajo Bridge. They cannot follow over running water. The gap, a small community about 20 miles ahead. And beyond it, another 15 to the Navajo Bridge, spanning the Colorado River at Marble Canyon. The engine coughed again as those elongated fingers continued to tap on the glass. Tap, tap, crack. A hairline fracture appeared where the nail, if you could call it that, made contact with the windshield. The crack in the windshield spread slowly, branching like frost across the glass. Those long, pale fingers continued their methodical tapping, each touch extending the fracture. I pushed the accelerator to the floor. The engine wheezed, then surged as the turbo kicked in. 70, 80, 85 miles per hour, far too fast for this road, especially at night, but I had no choice. The hand withdrew from the windshield, disappearing back over the roof. For a moment, I thought whatever it was had given up, that the speed had dislodged it. Then my driver's side mirror exploded. Glass shards peppered the side of the truck as something large pulled itself from the roof down toward my window. A blur of pale limbs and dark gaps where a face should be. I caught just a glimpse before instinct took over and I swerved hard, sending the truck fishtailing. The trailer swung wide, momentum threatening to jackknife the rig. My years of experience were the only thing that saved me, muscle memory taking control as I countersteered and fought the wheel. The tires howled in protest, but the truck straightened out. Whatever had been clinging to the side was gone. I chanced to look in the remaining mirror. The road behind me was empty, but the lights in the sky were following, keeping pace with the truck. My phone lit up again. They're trying to get inside. They can't touch you directly unless you invite them. No names, no acknowledgements. "What the fuck are they?" I shouted, knowing there would be no answer. My hands were cramping from gripping the wheel so tightly, and sweat stung my eyes despite the freezing air in the cab. The desert landscape rushed by in a dark blur. I was making good time now. Another 10 minutes to the gap, maybe less at this speed. A glance at the dashboard clock, 12:34 a.m. Still nearly 6 hours until sunrise. The truck shuddered suddenly, the whole cab vibrating as something heavy landed on the roof again. Metal groaned above me, bending inward as if under enormous pressure. A dent appeared in the ceiling directly over my head. I stopped breathing, eyes fixed on that dent as it slowly pushed further down, the metal creaking. Then a seam split, and something began to leak through, a viscous black fluid that glistened in the dashboard lights. It hung suspended for a moment, elongating into a tendril that swayed slightly, as if tasting the air. A drop fell, landing on my thigh. It burned through my jeans instantly, searing the skin beneath. I yelped, brushing frantically at the spot, but the damage was done. A perfect circle of charred flesh where the substance had made contact. The tendril retracted, and the dent in the ceiling popped back into shape. The seam closed as if it had never existed. But now I could hear movement on the roof again, multiple things scrabbling across the metal. A glance at the side mirror showed empty road behind me, but the sky was alive with those shimmering lights, dozens of them now, pacing the truck on both sides like an escort. "God help me," I whispered, realizing I was alone out here. No other traffic, no other witnesses. Just me, the things on my truck, and whatever malevolent intelligence controlled those lights. The radio switched on by itself, blaring static at full volume. I reached for the knob to follow Rule 3, but before I could touch it, a voice emerged from the noise. This time, my ex-wife's voice, clear as day. "Larson, the kids need you. Emily had an accident. We're at the hospital in Page. Please, if you get this..." I switched it off, hand shaking. Emily, my 7-year-old daughter. It couldn't be true. This was another trick, like the fake emergency scene in Cameron. But what if it wasn't? What if my family really needed me? No, I couldn't think that way. I had to focus on survival, on following the rules. Get to the gap, then to the Navajo Bridge, get across running water. The road began to climb as I approached the rim of the plateau. In the distance, I could make out the faint glow of lights. The gap, still miles away but growing closer. Something moved in my peripheral vision. The passenger seat, which had been empty, now held a figure. I kept my eyes on the road, refusing to look directly at it. But I could sense its presence, could smell it. A strange, acrid odor like burnt plastic and rotting meat. "You never should have taken this route, Mr. Larson," it said in a voice like sandpaper on stone. "These shipments are meant for special drivers, drivers who understand what they're carrying." I said nothing, remembering Rule 6. Don't answer if someone calls your name. Your cargo is very valuable to certain interests. Did you even check what you're hauling? The manifest had said medical supplies, standard stuff, pharmaceuticals, equipment, nothing unusual. I'd barely glanced at it, more concerned with the route and the deadline. "You should look in your trailer at the next stop," the figure continued. "See what you're really carrying. Why do you think they were so eager to pay you double? Why they needed it delivered before sunrise?" My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. 5 miles to the gap. "You're hauling death, Mr. Larson, and it's already leaking." The figure shifted in the seat, and despite my determination, I couldn't stop myself from glancing over. The seat was empty, but now there was something new. A smell coming from the vents. Sweet and cloying, like decomposition masked with cheap perfume. I jabbed at the climate controls, shutting off the air, but the smell grew stronger. My eyelids grew heavy. My thoughts began to blur at the edges, consciousness slipping away despite the adrenaline coursing through my system. "Stay awake," I ordered myself. Just a few more miles. The road ahead doubled, then tripled in my vision. I blinked hard, fighting the artificial drowsiness. The phone chimed. "They're pumping sleep gas through your ventilation system. Hold your breath as long as you can. You're almost at the gap." I sucked in one last clean breath and held it, lungs burning as the seconds ticked by. The lights of the gap grew larger ahead, a small collection of buildings, most dark at this hour, but the gas station still illuminated. My chest ached for air. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. With a gasp, I sucked in the tainted air. Instantly, the drowsiness returned, stronger than before. My eyelids felt like they were weighted with lead. "Stay awake, stay awake, stay awake." I repeated it like a mantra as I fought to keep the truck on the road. The gap was just ahead now. I could see the Chevron station, the small motel, the silhouette of the water tower against the night sky. Rule 7. Reach the gap before they reach you. The truck's engine coughed, then died completely. The dashboard went dark as momentum carried the rig forward, coasting toward the gap. No power, no lights, no electronic systems. I tried the ignition. Nothing. The truck was dead, still a quarter-mile from town. The silence was absolute. No engine noise, no radio static, no tapping or scraping from above. Just the sound of the tires on asphalt as the truck slowed. Then I heard it. A sound from the trailer, not thumping or scratching this time, but a voice. A child's voice. "Daddy? Daddy, help me, I'm scared." Emily. My daughter. My heart froze. It couldn't be her. Emily was safe at home with her mother in Phoenix, not trapped in my trailer in the middle of nowhere. "Daddy, please. Something's in here with me. Please help." The voice was perfect. The exact pitch and cadence of my daughter's voice when she was terrified. The same voice I'd heard during nightmares and thunderstorms, begging for comfort. The truck was still coasting, slowing with each second. I had to make a choice. If by some impossible chance it really was Emily in there. No, it was a trick. It had to be. My phone lit up one final time. Almost there. If the truck stops completely before you reach the gap, you're lost. If something claims to be someone you love, it's lying. Stay in the cab, no matter what you hear. The desperate cries from the trailer grew louder, more frantic. "Daddy, please, it's hurting me, Daddy!" The sound of my daughter's terror tore at me like physical pain. I bit down on my lip hard enough to draw blood, the sharp sting helping me focus. The truck was barely moving now, momentum nearly spent. The lights of the gap were agonizingly close, just a few hundred yards away. I could see people moving at the gas station, real people. I turned the key again, pumping the gas pedal in desperation. Come on, come on, come on. The engine clicked but wouldn't turn over. "Daddy, it's eating me!" Emily's voice had risen to a shriek that cut through me like a blade. The truck rolled to a complete stop, 50 yards short of the gap. Silence fell again, absolute and suffocating. The cries from the trailer ceased as suddenly as they had begun. The lights in the sky froze, no longer pulsing, but glaring down with constant, baleful radiance. I sat paralyzed, waiting for something to happen. Seconds stretched into a minute, 2 minutes. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. With trembling fingers, I tried the ignition again. The engine roared to life. Relief flooded through me so intensely I nearly blacked out. I jammed the truck into gear and hit the gas, lurching forward toward the safety of the gap. As I crossed some invisible boundary, the lights in the sky winked out, plunging the desert into natural darkness again. The weight on the roof, a presence I hadn't even consciously registered until it was gone, lifted. My phone's screen glowed softly. "You've reached the gap. Phase 1 complete. Rest if you must, but remember, you need to cross Navajo Bridge before sunrise. And you broke 2 rules already. They'll be waiting for you on the road to Marble Canyon. The next phase will be much harder. New rule: if you hear someone knocking on your door tonight, ignore it, no matter who they say they are." The Chevron station at the Gap was a lonely outpost of civilization, a single-story building with buzzing fluorescent lights, a small convenience store, and 2 gas pumps. At this hour, there was only one employee inside, a young Navajo man who looked up from his phone as I pulled in. I needed fuel, and I needed a moment to collect myself, to process what had just happened, to decide if I was going insane or if the world was. The truck's tank was nearly empty after my desperate flight from Gray Mountain. I pulled up to a pump and shut off the engine, my hands still trembling slightly. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the brightly lit storefront. Normal, mundane, safe. But I couldn't escape the memory of my daughter's voice coming from that trailer. The crack in my windshield was real enough, a spiderweb of fractures across the driver's side, and the burn on my thigh throbbed with very real pain. I touched my phone. 12:52 a.m. a little over 5.5 hours until sunrise. The young man at the counter watched me through the windows, a flicker of concern crossing his face. I probably looked like hell, pale, sweating, wild-eyed. I stepped down from the cab, legs wobbly beneath me, and started the fuel pump. As the numbers ticked upward, I tried not to look at my trailer, tried not to imagine what might be inside. The manifest had said medical supplies, but the figure in my passenger seat had said something else entirely. "You're hauling death, Mr. Larson, and it's already leaking." I shook the thought away and headed inside to pay, to buy some coffee, to pretend for a few minutes that this was just another late-night haul. The bell above the door jingled as I entered. The young man nodded at me. "Long night?" he asked. "You could say that?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears, hoarse and strained. "You look like you've seen a skinwalker." He said it casually, but there was a weight to his words that made me look at him more carefully. He was maybe 25, with long hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a faded Phoenix Suns hoodie. His name tag read Thomas. "Do people see those around here often?" I asked, trying to sound conversational, as I poured myself the largest coffee they had. Thomas shrugged. "Old stories. My grandfather used to talk about them. Yinald Lushi, those who walk on all fours, witches that can take animal form, or worse." He glanced out at my truck. "You come from down south?" "From Gray Mountain Way?" I nodded, bringing my coffee to the counter. Heading up to Page. Bad stretch of road at night. He rang up the fuel and coffee, his eyes never leaving my face. "Especially lately." "Lately?" "Last 3 months, we've had 6 disappearances between here and Bitter Springs. Drivers mostly. One was a park ranger from Glen Canyon. His car was found empty, engine still running." Thomas leaned forward slightly. "People are saying something's woken up out there. Something old." I swallowed hard, thinking of the missing driver whose road I'd taken over. "You believe that kind of thing?" "Don't matter what I believe. Matters what's out there." He nodded at my windshield. "That crack wasn't there when you pulled in." A chill ran through me. I turned to look, and he was right. The fracture was spreading, thin lines creeping across the glass even as we watched. "You got trouble following you, brother," Thomas said quietly. "I can see it on you." "I need to get to Navajo Bridge before sunrise," I said, not bothering to deny it anymore. "What's the fastest way from here?" Thomas's expression grew serious. "You follow 89 north. No other way. But listen." He pulled a small leather pouch from under his hoodie, hanging from a cord around his neck. "My grandmother made this. Protection medicine. I think you need it more than me tonight." He lifted the cord over his head and held it out to me. I hesitated. "I can't take that." "You can, and you will." He pressed it into my hand. "Put it in your cab. It won't stop them, but it might slow them down. And..." He glanced out at the darkness beyond the bright island of the gas station. "Don't stop again until you cross the water. Whatever you do. Whatever you see." I nodded, closing my fingers around the small pouch. It smelled of sage and something else, something earthy. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. Thomas's face was grim. "Because I've seen too many good people vanish on that stretch of road, and because whatever you're carrying in that trailer..." He stopped, shaking his head. "Just get it across the bridge." I paid and walked back out to my truck, the medicine pouch clutched tightly in my fist. The night air felt different here, less oppressive somehow, as if the gap truly was a sanctuary of sorts. I hung the pouch from my rearview mirror and started the engine. Thomas watched from the window as I pulled away, his expression unreadable. The road north from the gap was empty, a solitary ribbon of asphalt cutting through the darkness. According to my GPS, it was about 35 miles to Navajo Bridge, normally less than 40 minutes of driving. But nothing about this night had been normal. I checked the mirrors compulsively, watching for lights in the sky or shapes on the road. Nothing so far. The desert was quiet, the night clear and star-filled. Too quiet. I realized I hadn't heard any sounds from the trailer since leaving the gap. No thumps, no scratches, no voices, just silence. My phone had been quiet too. No more messages from the unknown number. I was beginning to wonder if I'd passed some kind of test, if the worst was behind me. Then I passed a road sign, Marble Canyon, 25 miles. The radio switched on by itself again, tuning rapidly through stations before settling on a clear signal. A news broadcast. Breaking news from Page, Arizona, where authorities have issued an emergency evacuation order following a toxic spill at the hospital. Residents are advised to... I reached for the dial to follow Rule 3, but hesitated. This sounded legitimate. And it mentioned Page, my destination. I needed to know what was happening. Unknown substance reportedly leaked from a shipment of medical supplies that arrived earlier this evening. First responders on the scene described a black, oil-like substance that caused severe chemical burns. The CDC has been notified, and a hazmat team is en route from Flagstaff. Again, all residents of Page are advised to evacuate immediately and proceed south to... The broadcast cut off suddenly, replaced by a voice I recognized. Thomas, the attendant from the Gap. Larson, turn off the radio. Now. It's not real. Nothing on that frequency is real tonight. I jabbed the power button, and the radio went silent. My phone lit up immediately. Good. You're learning, but breaking rules 1 and 6 has consequences. They're coming for you now, from behind and ahead. Drive faster. I pressed down hard on the accelerator, pushing the truck well beyond the speed limit. The engine roared as the rig gained speed, eating up the miles toward Marble Canyon. In the side mirror, I caught a glimpse of movement on the road behind me. A dark shape loping along the center line. It moved like a coyote, but was much too large, its proportions all wrong. As I watched, it dropped to all fours and accelerated, closing the distance between us with unnatural speed. Ahead, the road curved around a massive sandstone formation. As I took the bend, my headlights illuminated something standing in the road. A figure that looked human at first glance, but was too tall, too thin. It stood perfectly still as I approached, face hidden in shadow. I didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. I gripped the wheel tight and aimed straight for it. At the last second, the figure moved, not diving aside as a human would, but unfolding somehow, limbs extending as it leapt upward with impossible agility. I caught a glimpse of it soaring over the truck before it disappeared from my field of vision. A heavy thud on the trailer told me where it had landed. I checked the mirror again. The coyote thing was still gaining, now joined by 2 more identical shapes, and further back, those lights had returned to the sky, pulsing with angry energy. The medicine pouch swung from my rearview mirror, the leather worn smooth by years of handling. I didn't know if I believed in its power, but at this point, I was willing to try anything. 20 miles to the bridge, I muttered to myself. Just 20 more miles. Something moved on the roof of the cab again, scraping, scratching, searching for a way in. The scratching above my head grew more insistent. Metal groaned as something applied pressure to the roof, pressing downward with incredible force. The cab's ceiling began to dent inward again, slowly at first, then faster, the metal shrieking in protest. I swerved across the empty road, trying to dislodge whatever was up there. The truck rocked violently, But the thing held on. The cracked windshield fractured further, pieces of safety glass breaking loose and skittering across the dashboard. Cold air rushed in through the gaps, carrying with it a smell like rotting meat and burnt metal. My phone lit up. Almost to Bitter Springs. 5 miles. They can't follow you into sacred ground. You'll have a moment to breathe. Bitter Springs was hardly a town, just a small cluster of homes and a chapter house for the Navajo Nation government. But if it offered even momentary protection, I'd take it. The dent in the ceiling suddenly reversed with a sharp pop, metal snapping back into place. The scratching stopped. In my mirrors, I could see the coyote things falling back, dropping away from my taillights until they disappeared in the darkness. The road descended into a shallow valley where Bitter Springs lay nestled against the base of the Echo Cliffs. A few scattered lights marked the homes of its residents, most dark at this hour. The chapter house was the largest building, sitting close to the highway. As I crossed some invisible boundary, I felt a change in the air, a lifting of pressure I hadn't consciously registered until it was gone. The medicine pouch swung gently from my mirror, and I could have sworn it was glowing faintly. For the first time since Cameron, I allowed myself to breathe normally. My shoulders ached from tension, hands cramped from gripping the wheel so tightly. The dashboard clock read 1:37 a.m. 4 hours and 53 minutes until sunrise, 15 miles to Navajo Bridge. I slowed slightly as I passed through Bitter Springs, scanning the roadside. A single light burned in the chapter house, a silhouette visible through the window, someone sitting motionless, watching the road. As I drove by, the figure raised a hand in acknowledgement. I found myself returning the gesture, though I couldn't have said why. My phone buzzed. Bitter Springs to Navajo Bridge is the most dangerous stretch. They'll try everything now. Remember what you're carrying and why it must cross the water before dawn. I still didn't know what was in my trailer. Medical supplies, according to the manifest. Death, according to the entity that had appeared in my passenger seat. Whatever it was, Thomas at the Gap had recognized its significance immediately. As the last buildings of Bitter Springs fell behind me, the relief I'd felt began to fade. The air grew thick again, oppressive, pressing against the truck like invisible hands trying to slow its progress. The medicine pouch was definitely glowing now, a soft amber light that pulsed like a heartbeat. It swung toward the passenger window suddenly, as if pulled by an unseen force. I glanced to my right and nearly drove off the road. Someone was running alongside the truck, keeping perfect pace despite my speed. Not on the road, but on the rocky terrain beyond the shoulder, moving with impossible fluidity over the uneven ground. It was shaped like a man, but wrong in ways that made my stomach lurch. Too tall, too thin, jointed in places humans shouldn't be jointed. Its skin glowed pale in the moonlight, stretched tight over a frame that seemed more insect than mammal. As I watched, its head rotated 180 degrees to look at me, revealing a face that was almost human, but horribly distorted, features stretched and compressed as if viewed through funhouse mirrors. Its mouth opened, splitting its face from ear to ear, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. I jerked my eyes back to the road, heart hammering. Rule 5 had specified skylights, but I wasn't taking any chances by looking too long at anything unnatural. The thing kept pace with the truck, staying just at the edge of my vision. Every few seconds, it would make a strange, jerky movement, disappearing from one spot and instantly reappearing a few yards ahead, like a video with frames missing. I pushed the truck faster, the speedometer creeping past 90. The engine was redlining, not designed for sustained speed on these hilly roads, but I had no choice. My phone chimed. It's a skinwalker. Don't look at it directly. It wants you to see its face. As if hearing the message, the thing made a sound, a high, chittering noise like insects and human laughter combined. It began to move closer to the truck, no longer content to run alongside. In a blur of motion, it leapt onto the passenger door, clinging to the side of the cab, its face pressed against the window, breath frosting the glass. Those two long fingers splayed against the surface, leaving smears that sizzled and smoked where they touched. The medicine pouch swung violently toward it, the glow intensifying. The thing recoiled from the light, its face contorting in what might have been pain. I seized the pouch and pressed it against the window. The reaction was immediate. The creature shrieked, a sound that penetrated the cab and drove ice picks into my eardrums. It released its hold on the door and fell away. For a moment, I thought I was safe. Then I heard a new sound from the trailer, not scratching or thumping this time, but a liquid sound, sloshing, dripping. Something was leaking. The cab filled with a sickly sweet odor, like rotting flowers and burnt sugar. The same smell that had tried to drug me earlier, but stronger now, more concentrated. My eyelids grew heavy instantly. My reactions slowed, thoughts turning syrupy and confused. I was vaguely aware of the truck drifting across the center line, but couldn't summon the coordination to correct it. The medicine pouch grew hot in my hand, almost burning. The pain cut through the fog, giving me a moment of clarity. I pressed it to my face and breathed deeply. The scent of sage and earth overwhelmed the sweet rot, and my head began to clear. I jerked the truck back into my lane just as headlights appeared around the bend ahead, the first oncoming vehicle I'd seen since leaving Flagstaff. As the vehicle drew closer, I could make out the distinctive light bar and push bumper of an Arizona Highway Patrol cruiser. The trooper flashed his lights as we passed each other. In my rearview mirror, I watched the cruiser's brake lights come on. It made a U-turn and accelerated, lights now fully engaged in pursuit mode. My stomach dropped. This was real. A real trooper had seen me swerving across the road and was pulling me over. I couldn't outrun law enforcement. That would only make things worse. But I couldn't stop either, not with 15 miles still to go to the bridge. I eased off the gas slightly, conflict tearing at me. The cruiser closed the distance rapidly, siren now wailing through the night. My phone lit up. Don't stop. Not for anything. It's not real. But it had to be real. I'd seen the trooper pass me, watched him make the U-turn. This wasn't like the fake emergency scene at Cameron. The cruiser was right behind me now, close enough that its headlights filled my cab with light. The siren cut off, replaced by the crackle of a loudspeaker. "Driver, pull over immediately. This is your only warning." I pressed harder on the accelerator, pushing the struggling engine to its limits. The cruiser kept pace easily. The loudspeaker crackled again. "Larson, we know what you're carrying. Pull over now or we'll be forced to stop you." They knew my name. A cold certainty settled over me. This was another trick, another manifestation of whatever was hunting me. I held steady, maintaining my speed as the road curved along the base of the Echo Cliffs. The terrain was growing more rugged, the highway cutting through increasingly dramatic landscape as it approached Marble Canyon. The patrol car rammed me from behind, the impact jarring through the entire rig. The trailer fishtailed dangerously, nearly jackknifing before I managed to straighten it out. Another impact, harder this time. Metal crunched as my rear bumper crumpled. The truck lurched forward, tires squealing. In my remaining side mirror, I could see the cruiser preparing for another ram. But something was happening to it. The vehicle's outline seemed to blur and shift, its proportions subtly changing. The light bar flickered, the pattern of the flashes becoming erratic. As I watched, the trooper leaned out of the driver's window. But what emerged wasn't human. The uniform was right, but the arm was too long, jointed in too many places. The hand that gripped the edge of the door had too many fingers, each tipped with a curved black talon. The cruiser accelerated again, pulling alongside my truck. The thing wearing the trooper's uniform turned to look at me, but its face was obscured by the campaign hat pulled low over its features. "Pull over, Larson," it said, its voice now a distorted parody of authority. "What you're carrying belongs to us. It was never meant to cross the water." I said nothing, focusing on the road ahead. 10 miles to the bridge, 10 miles of vulnerable, open highway. The false trooper raised its arm, and I saw it was holding something. A service pistol, aimed at my front tire. The gunshot was deafening. My tire blew instantly, the truck lurching to the right as the steering wheel jerked in my hands. I fought for control, adrenaline giving me the strength to keep the rig on the road despite the now flapping rubber. I could drive on a flat, but not fast, not for 10 miles. The cruiser pulled ahead slightly, positioning itself to force me off the road. That's when the lights appeared ahead. Headlights, coming around the bend toward us. Another vehicle. The cruiser hesitated, slowing slightly. As the approaching vehicle came into view, I saw it was another semi-truck, a massive Peterbilt, with extra lights mounted across its roof and grille. It was barreling down the center of the road, horn blasting a warning. The false trooper's cruiser swerved away from me, momentarily confused by this new development. The oncoming truck didn't slow, didn't move to its proper lane. It kept coming straight down the middle of the highway, forcing both me and the cruiser to the edges of the road. As it roared past, I caught a glimpse of the driver, an older Navajo man with gray hair, one hand raised in acknowledgement. The same gesture I'd seen from the figure in the chapter house at Bitter Springs. In my mirror, I saw the truck slam on its brakes and jackknife, its trailer swinging around to block the entire road, cutting off the cruiser from pursuing me. My phone lit up one last time. 8 miles to the bridge. Don't stop, no matter what condition your truck is in. They've sent help, but they can only hold the others back for so long. Driving on a blown tire was like trying to control a boat in a storm. The truck pulled hard to the right, the steering wheel fighting me with every turn of the road. The flapping rubber made a rhythmic thudding against the wheel well, each impact sending shudders through the chassis. But I kept moving, pushing the damaged rig as fast as I dared. Behind me, I could hear distant sounds, screeching tires, metal impacting metal, an inhuman shriek of rage that carried unnaturally far across the desert. The mysterious Navajo trucker had bought me time, but I knew it wouldn't last. Whatever was pursuing me wouldn't be stopped for long. The highway followed the contours of the land as it approached Marble Canyon, winding through increasingly rugged terrain. The Echo Cliffs loomed to my right, a massive wall of striated sandstone catching the moonlight. To my left, the land began to drop away toward the unseen depths of the canyon. I crested a hill and saw the landscape open up before me. The vast, starlit emptiness of Marble Canyon, a yawning chasm in the earth. And spanning it in the distance, the twin arches of Navajo Bridge, illuminated by small safety lights that made it glow like a beacon in the darkness. 7 miles to go. 7 miles on a rapidly disintegrating tire. The smell from the trailer had grown stronger. Whatever was leaking back there was spreading, the sickly sweet odor now tinged with something metallic and sharp. It made my eyes water, and my throat burn. The dashboard clock read 2:04 a.m. 4 hours and 26 minutes until sunrise. The medicine pouch still hung from my mirror, its glow fading slightly, but still providing a soft amber light. I gripped it with my free hand, drawing comfort from its warmth. "Thank you," I whispered to the absent Thomas. "Thank you for seeing it." A new sound arose from behind, a high-pitched keening that sliced through the night. I checked my mirrors and saw them, the coyote things, running in formation down the center of the highway. There were more of them now, at least 6, their movements unnaturally synchronized as they ate up the distance between us. The truck's speed had dropped to 50, the flat tire making anything faster too dangerous on the winding road. At this rate, the pack would overtake me before I reached the bridge. I fumbled for my phone, hoping for more guidance, more rules to follow. The screen remained dark. Either the mysterious texter had nothing more to offer, or something was blocking the signal. The lead coyote thing was now less than 100 yards behind, close enough that I could make out details I wished I hadn't seen. Its body was wrong, limbs too long, joints bending in impossible directions. Its head was oversized, skull distorted to accommodate a jaw that looked capable of biting through steel. And its eyes glowed red in my taillights, tracking my every movement with predatory intelligence. 5 miles to the bridge. The truck shuddered as the damaged tire began to disintegrate completely, strips of rubber flying off as the wheel began to run on the rim. Sparks flew where metal met asphalt, a shower of orange light trailing behind me. The lead coyote thing lunged forward in a burst of speed, drawing alongside the trailer. It leapt, powerful hind legs propelling it up onto the side of the container. Its claws dug into the metal, puncturing it like foil. More liquid began to leak from the holes, a dark substance that glistened unnaturally where it touched the creature's fur. The coyote thing yowled in what sounded like pain, its skin smoking where the liquid made contact. But it didn't let go, continuing to tear at the trailer's side. I couldn't see what was happening clearly, but I could hear it. The rending of metal, the splash of liquid, the unnatural cries of the creature as it fought with whatever was inside. The truck was down to 40 miles per hour now, the wheel rim digging into the asphalt, throwing up a shower of sparks. The steering was becoming nearly impossible to control. 4 miles to the bridge. More coyote things had reached the trailer now, leaping up to join the first. I could hear them moving across the roof, their claws making a horrible screeching sound as they dug in for purchase. A new smell filled the cab, petroleum and chemicals, acrid and eye-watering. Whatever was leaking from the trailer had changed, or perhaps a different container had been breached. The medicine pouch began to glow brighter, pulsing with increasing urgency. It swung on its cord, pointing toward the passenger window. I looked over and felt my heart stutter. Something was running parallel to the truck again, not on the road, but impossibly along the sheer face of the echo cliffs. It moved with a spider-like gait, too many limbs propelling it forward at terrifying speed. In the moonlight, I could see it was roughly human-shaped, but elongated and wrong, its skin pale and taut over a skeletal frame. This wasn't a skinwalker. This was something else entirely. As I watched, it pushed off from the cliff face in an impossible leap, soaring through the air toward my cab. I swerved instinctively, the truck fishtailing wildly on its damaged wheel. The thing missed the cab by inches, landing instead on the roof of the trailer with a heavy thud that I felt through the chassis. The sounds from the back changed immediately, the coyote thing's yowls turning to yelps of fear, then abrupt silence. 3 miles to the bridge. The truck shuddered violently as something massive moved across the top of the trailer. Metal groaned and buckled under tremendous weight. I could hear fighting, snarls, impacts, the wet sounds of tearing flesh. The entities were battling each other, I realized, fighting over whatever I was carrying. One by one, the coyote things were being silenced, but their killer wasn't my ally. It wanted the cargo for itself. The trailer rocked as something was thrown from its roof, a coyote thing landing broken on the asphalt behind me. Then another, and another. The pale thing was clearing the field, 2 miles to the bridge. I could see it clearly now, a graceful arch of steel spanning the Colorado River gorge. So close, yet still too far, with a truck that was rapidly falling apart. The rim of the wheel had worn down to the axle, which now scraped along the road in a shower of sparks and screeching metal. The truck was barely moving at 30 miles per hour, the engine straining to push the damaged rig forward. The thing on the trailer had finished with the coyote things. I could feel it moving toward the cab now, a heavy, deliberate tread that sent vibrations through the frame. It wanted me next. 1 mile to the bridge. A massive crash came from behind as the thing tore a hole in the top of the trailer, the sound of rending metal drowning out even the screech of the axle on asphalt. Liquid gushed from the opening, not dripping or leaking now, but pouring out in a torrent that splashed onto the road behind me. In my mirror, I could see it. A viscous black substance that seemed to move with purpose, flowing not like normal liquid, but like something alive. Where it touched the asphalt, the road surface bubbled and dissolved. The thing had breached the cargo. Whatever I was hauling was now exposed to the night air. 1/2 mile to the bridge. The truck was barely crawling now, the damaged axle threatening to give out completely. 20 miles per hour. 15. 10. The bridge entrance loomed ahead, tantalizingly close. I could see the sign, Navajo Bridge, historic site. Beyond it, the narrow 2-lane bridge spanning the yawning darkness of Marble Canyon, the Colorado River invisible hundreds of feet below. The cabin of the truck filled with a new presence, a heaviness in the air, a pressure behind my eyes. The medicine pouch glowed like a miniature sun, almost too bright to look at. Something whispered in my ear, though I was alone in the cab. "Stop the truck, Larson. We only want what's ours. Let us have it, and you can go free." The voice was reasonable, soothing. It made a certain kind of sense. Why was I risking my life for cargo I knew nothing about? For a job that had already gone terribly wrong? My foot hovered over the brake pedal. The medicine pouch flared suddenly, its light filling the cab with golden radiance. The pressure in my head vanished, the whispering voice cut off mid-sentence. I stomped on the accelerator instead, forcing the last bit of power from the struggling engine. The truck lurched forward, picking up a few precious miles per hour. 200 yards to the bridge. The thing on the trailer moved again, this time onto the cab itself. The roof dented inward as it crawled forward, positioning itself directly above me. I could hear it breathing, a wet, rattling sound that no human or animal should make. 100 yards. Long, pale fingers appeared at the edges of my windshield, gripping the frame with impossible strength. The glass began to crack further under the pressure, spiderwebs spreading across its surface. One by one, those fingers curled over the edge, preparing to tear the windshield away entirely. 50 yards. I reached up and grabbed the medicine pouch, tearing it from the mirror. Acting on pure instinct, I pressed it against the roof of the cab, directly beneath where the creature crouched. There was a sound like bacon hitting a hot pan, a sizzle and pop that rose quickly to a shriek of agony. The fingers withdrew instantly, the pressure on the roof lifting as the thing recoiled. The truck crossed onto the bridge, wheels rumbling over the expansion joints at the entrance. I felt a change immediately, a lifting of the dread that had settled in my chest, a sudden absence of the malevolent pressure that had been building all night. Looking in my mirrors, I saw the pale thing drop from my trailer onto the road just before the bridge entrance. It stood there, a gaunt silhouette against the starlit desert, watching as I drove beyond its reach. Halfway across Navajo Bridge, spanning the invisible waters of the Colorado River hundreds of feet below, I finally allowed myself to breathe again. The medicine pouch had cooled in my hand, its glow fading to a soft ember. My phone chimed for the first time in over an hour. "You've crossed running water. You're safe for now. But there's one last stretch of road to Page, and what you're carrying is still leaking. Sunrise is still hours away. Last rule, if you make it to Page, don't open the trailer, whatever you do, no matter who asks you to. Crossing Navajo Bridge should have felt like victory. Instead, as I limped the damaged truck across the Colorado River, I felt a creeping dread that this was merely an intermission in my nightmare. The clock read 2:45 a.m. Still almost 4 hours until sunrise, and 15 miles of lonely desert highway between the bridge and Page. The truck was barely functional. The rim had worn down to almost nothing, the axle now taking the brunt of the damage. Each rotation sent a shudder through the entire rig that threatened to shake it apart. I couldn't go faster than 5 miles per hour, which meant almost 3 hours on the road before reaching Page, if the truck lasted that long. And something was still leaking from the trailer. I could smell it now, different from before, less sweet and more acrid, like industrial chemicals mixed with something organic and rotten. The medicine pouch had saved me on the bridge, but its glow had dimmed to almost nothing, its power apparently spent in that final confrontation. I reached for my phone, hoping for more guidance now that I'd crossed the water. The battery indicator showed 12%. It wouldn't last much longer. The mysterious text messages had been my lifeline through this nightmare, and the thought of losing that connection sent a spike of panic through me. 5 minutes after crossing the bridge, the truck gave up completely. With a final, agonized shriek of metal, the axle snapped. The truck lurched to the right, then settled at an awkward angle, the trailer's weight shifting dangerously. I sat in the silent cab, hands still gripping the useless steering wheel. The engine had stalled out and wouldn't restart. I was stranded on the side of Highway 89A, halfway between Navajo Bridge and Page, with a broken truck, a mysteriously leaking cargo, and hours of darkness still ahead. My phone chimed. "The truck is done. You need to keep moving. Take what you can carry and start walking. Page is 14 miles northeast. Follow the highway. Don't leave the road. Don't look back at the trailer." I didn't have much choice. I couldn't stay with the truck, not with whatever was in that trailer continuing to leak. Not with sunrise still hours away. I gathered what I could. My jacket, a flashlight, my nearly dead phone, and the medicine pouch. I took a bottle of water from my emergency kit and stepped down from the cab. The night air was cold, the kind of desert cold that cuts through clothing and settles in your bones. The stars blazed overhead, countless and indifferent. The highway stretched before me, a pale ribbon in the moonlight, disappearing into the darkness ahead. I didn't look back at the trailer, not even a glance. Whatever was happening back there, I didn't want to know. I started walking. The first mile was the hardest, every instinct screaming at me to look back, to check if I was being followed. The medicine pouch hung around my neck now, its weight reassuring despite its diminished glow. My phone battery dropped to 10%, then 9%. I kept it off, saving the remaining power for emergencies. Without the mysterious texter's guidance, I felt blind, vulnerable. The highway curved through the desert landscape, following the contours of the plateau. The land here was different from the reservation, more rugged, more exposed. The Vermilion Cliffs rose to my left. Their red stone turned silver in the moonlight. I had been walking for about an hour when I heard it, the distant sound of an approaching vehicle coming from behind me. Headlights appeared, cutting through the darkness, growing brighter as the vehicle approached. I moved to the shoulder, thumb instinctively going up, the universal hitchhiker's gesture. Then I remembered, Rule 1, don't stop for hitchhikers. The inverse must also be true. Don't become a hitchhiker. Don't accept rides. I lowered my hand and kept walking, eyes fixed on the road ahead. The vehicle slowed as it approached. A pickup truck, its engine rumbling in the silence. It pulled alongside me, keeping pace with my walking. The passenger window rolled down. "Need a ride, brother?" A man's voice, friendly, concerned. "Dangerous to be walking out here alone at night." I didn't look at the driver, kept my eyes on the road ahead. "I'm good, thanks. Just getting some air." I laugh. "Some air? In the middle of nowhere at 3 a.m.? Come on, man. Your truck back there looks pretty messed up. I can get you to Page in 20 minutes. The offer was tempting. So tempting. My legs were already aching, and I had miles to go. But something felt wrong. How did he know I was heading to Page? "I appreciate it, but I'm good, really." The truck continued to idle beside me for a moment. Then the driver spoke again, his voice different now, deeper, with an unpleasant wet quality. "Larson, get in the truck. Now." I froze. He knew my name. "We've been very patient," the voice continued, no longer even attempting to sound human. "But our patience has limits. Get in, or we'll take what's ours another way." I still didn't look. Kept my eyes straight ahead and started walking again, faster now. "You think crossing the water saved you?" The voice was changing, stretching, becoming something that hurt my ears. "You think your little medicine pouch can protect you out here, away from the bridge? We have claim to this land too, Larson. Ancient claim." The pickup's engine revved menacingly. I tensed, expecting it to swerve into me. Instead, it pulled ahead, then stopped about 50 yards in front of me, blocking the highway. I had no choice but to stop as well. Looking around, I saw nothing but open desert on both sides. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The only cover was the distant cliffs, too far to reach before whatever was in that truck caught me. My phone chimed in my pocket. A final message before the battery died. "Don't leave the road, no matter what. Help is coming. They can't touch you on the asphalt." The pickup's doors opened, and 2 figures stepped out, one from each side. They were shaped like men, but moved all wrong, their limbs too fluid, too loose in their sockets. They approached slowly, spreading out to flank me. I backed up, staying on the asphalt as instructed. The figures stopped at the edge of the road, their feet not quite touching the pavement. "The road is just a road, Larson," one of them said, its face shifting subtly in the moonlight, features rearranging themselves like clay. "It doesn't protect you. Nothing protects you now." It took a step forward, onto the asphalt, and screamed. The sound was like nothing I'd ever heard. Part animal, part something mechanical and wrong. It yanked its foot back as if the road had burned it. The second figure hissed, its form rippling with anger. "What have you done?" I had no idea what was happening, but I wasn't going to question my good fortune. The road was safe somehow. Perhaps Thomas's magic extended further than I thought, or maybe something else was at work here. "You will die before sunrise, Larson," the first figure said, its voice now a rasp of fury. "And what you carry will be ours again. You should never have taken this job, never have driven this road. You don't even know what you're part of." "Then tell me," I said, finding my voice at last. "What am I carrying? Why does it matter so much?" The figures exchanged a look that made my skin crawl. Then, the second one smiled, its mouth stretching far wider than a human mouth should. "Life," it said simply, "and death, the balance between worlds. A substance stolen from us centuries ago by those who feared our power. Those who bound us to this land and set their borders with running water." "The Navajo," I whispered. "Before they had that name." The first figure nodded. "They took what was ours and learned to use it against us. And now they send it away, across the water where we cannot follow, to be destroyed at sunrise. It made a horrible kind of sense. The missing driver, the desperate deadline, the specific route instructions. If I'm already across the water, I asked, why are you still after me? Why not just let me go? Because what you carry is awakening, the second figure hissed, breaking free of its containers. Some of it has already spilled, and what spills belongs to us once more. Each drop strengthens us. Soon, we'll take it all back, and the old boundaries will mean nothing. As if on cue, I heard a new sound from behind me, from the direction of my abandoned truck, a low, rumbling roar that seemed to shake the earth beneath my feet. The figures before me lifted their heads, expressions changing to something like hunger. "It comes," the first one whispered. "It comes to us." I turned, breaking my own rule about not looking back. In the distance, perhaps a mile away, something massive moved on the highway. Even at this distance, I could tell it was bigger than my truck, bigger than anything that should be able to move. A dark shape that seemed to flow rather than walk, spreading across the full width of the road. The medicine pouch around my neck grew warm again, a faint glow rekindling within it. At the same moment, I heard the rumble of an engine, not from behind, but ahead. New headlights appeared around the bend, approaching fast. The figures by the pickup tensed, drawing back from the road's edge. The approaching vehicle was another truck, a familiar one. The same Peterbilt that had blocked the false trooper at Echo Cliffs, its roof rack blazing with lights. It roared toward us at full speed, horn blasting a warning. The pickup truck that had blocked my path suddenly started up, its engine turning over without anyone inside it. It reversed sharply, leaving the road clear. The Peterbilt slowed as it approached, coming to a stop beside me. The door swung open, revealing the same Navajo driver I'd glimpsed earlier. "Get in," he said simply. Quickly. I glanced back one more time. The massive shape on the highway was closer now, moving with unnatural speed. I could see it more clearly, a roiling mass of that same black substance that had leaked from my trailer, but now animate, purposeful. And riding atop it, guiding it, were pale shapes that resembled the thing that had attacked me near the bridge. I didn't need any more convincing. I climbed into the Peterbilt's cab, and the driver immediately accelerated, tires squealing on the asphalt. "You've done well to get this far," he said as we sped toward Page. "But the cargo is breaking containment faster than we expected. We need to get to the ceremonial grounds before sunrise, before it fully awakens. I don't drive the Arizona highways at night anymore, not since that delivery to Page 3 months ago." The Navajo driver, Ben Sosi was his name, got me to the ceremonial grounds just outside Page, with less than an hour to spare before sunrise. The black substance from my trailer had followed us the entire way, growing larger with every mile, absorbing anything it touched. I'm still not clear on exactly what happened next. There were elders waiting for us, men and women in traditional dress who didn't seem surprised by the nightmarish entity pursuing us. They had prepared a site, a circular area marked with symbols I didn't recognize, surrounded by what Ben later told me was cornmeal and crushed turquoise. As the first hint of dawn broke over the horizon, they performed a ceremony. The words were in Diné Bizad, the Navajo language, but their purpose was clear even to me: containment, purification, banishment. The black mass writhed and fought at the edge of their circle, the pale riders atop it shrieking in rage. But as the sun's first rays touched the scene, the substance began to dissolve, evaporating like dew under intense heat. The riders fought to the end, their forms growing more distorted, more desperate as their mount disappeared beneath them. The last one, larger than the others, with too many limbs and a face that kept shifting between human and something insectile, pointed directly at me before the sun's light erased it completely. "You'll drive for us one day, Larson," it said, its voice somehow inside my head. "All drivers on these roads belong to us eventually." I quit my job the next day. Ben explained some of it afterward. The medical supplies I had been transporting were actually ancient ceremonial objects contaminated with what the Navajo call corpse sickness, a physical manifestation of evil that had been collected and contained over centuries. The objects were being moved to a permanent containment site beyond the reservation boundaries, a place where the entities that wanted them couldn't reach. I was chosen as the driver because I was an outsider. The entities couldn't directly harm me unless I invited them to, which was apparently the purpose of all those rules. Each broken rule had been an invitation of sorts, weakening the separation between their world and ours. Thomas from the Gap reached out to me last week. A text from an unknown number, just like that first night. Another driver needed for special cargo, double pay, plus danger bonus. "You know the rules now." I declined. But I've been having dreams. Dreams where I'm back on that highway. Headlights cutting through the darkness. Something moving just beyond their reach. In the dreams, I'm always driving toward Navajo Bridge, but I never quite make it. The distance never changes, no matter how fast I drive. And sometimes, when I wake in the pre-dawn hours, I find myself checking my phone for new messages, new rules to follow. Worst of all are the sounds I occasionally hear from outside my apartment at night. A soft tapping on my window, like elongated fingers testing the glass. A high-pitched, chittering laugh that's gone when I work up the courage to look. Ben warned me that once you've been marked by them, they don't forget. Once you've carried their power, even unwittingly, you become a beacon they can always find. I've taken to lining my windowsills with crushed turquoise and salt. I've hung a medicine pouch, a gift from Thomas, above my bed, and I never, ever drive after dark.